judging. I'm sure you have had many conversations, whether it's with fellow MMA fans, whether it's with people online, about judging in MMA or combat sports as a whole. Of course, it's going to be a topic that brings up controversy when one fighter gets the nod over another, whether it's because everyone on Twitter seems to disagree, whether it's judges disagreeing with other judges, all of these things. I'm sure you've had many conversations about it, because every few months it seems like judging is the new big issue in combat sports, whether we should get the rules and regulations changed or whatever it is. Open scoring, of course, all of that stuff. For me personally, it's something that I don't necessarily look into a whole lot. It doesn't really come up in my day-to-day job covering the sport. However, of course, it is something that I am interested in. I've often contemplated going to one of Mark Goddard's coaching courses. I believe he has one coming up that I was going to try and make, but booking the time off work and all that stuff, it just doesn't work out. But it's definitely something I want to do in the future, just to be more informed on the subject. For now, I just tend to stick to Sean Sheehan's Twitter page as the unofficial source of judging information out there. So shout out to Sean. And yeah, judging, of course, is a big topic. And I was recently told about an article that MMA Fighting had put up. Let me pull the article up right now, actually, just so I have it in front of me. About judging. And at first I thought, okay, I heard that it was like a quiz or something. I thought, okay, this is going to be just testing your knowledge or something. I'll have a go at that and we'll see how it goes. It's far more than that. The article is called How to Judge an MMA Fight with Quiz. I will leave the link for you in the description below, and I would seriously recommend everybody checking this out if you have a passing interest in judging and the way it works, etc. I think it's a must check off, a must do. And I'm sure at first you might think that this isn't that important information. Like when you start up the article, it just tells you about the controversy around judging. It explains the criteria a little bit, the 10-point must system, questions around that system, and then going on to talk about how you pick a winner of a fight and the difficulties that come with that, how you should pick the winner. And like I said, there's kind of outside influences that can affect that and things like that, going into a bit more detail about judging. However, what this article has done is it has enlisted the help of some MMA judges. And so what you have to do is it will give you clips of fights. We'll talk about that in detail in a minute. And your simple task is to pick what you would score that particular clip of the fight, and then it will give you a judge's verdict. Now, it doesn't name the judge that you're getting the verdict from, but it does go on to tell you the list of judges that they worked with in creating this article, and the judge will give an explanation of why they chose what they did, and it'll tell you whether you guessed right or wrong. I guess I am going to talk about which way the judges actually go on these clips, so if you do want to try it for yourself, please go and do that. Otherwise, you'll be biased going into it because you will already know what the judge is going to go for. So again, if you have a passing interest in judging, the way it works, all that stuff, please go check this article out. Like I said, it'll be in the description, and come back to this video when you're done so that we can talk about how this is all playing out. So, first part of this thing, you have 3 clips. They are just over a minute long, I believe, a minute and a half. The first clip, they're all Bellator clips. The first clip is super easy, with Kane Musa losing the majority of the round, then right at the end he drops his opponent. So you score that minute and a half to Kane Musa, and move on to the next one. In the second clip, so they did a really good job, I think, of choosing these clips and to give you a different scenario each time. Of course, there aren't many MMA fights that play out exactly the same as the other, but they've kind of given you, if you think of what's a interesting situation for a judge to be in, they've probably put it in one of these clips. Because the second clip, you've got Lee Chadwick, another UK fighter, who gets a takedown. His opponent gets straight back up, and before the takedown, his opponent landed the better shot, so Lee Chadwick does not win the round. I can't remember who the opponent was, so I do apologise. But I was trying not to get carried away with doing research on all these fights and stuff. The third clip, I ended up getting this one wrong. You had Benson Henderson versus Piccolotti. I ended up going with Piccolotti on this one, and Benson Henderson got the nod. I went with Piccolotti because he had the back control with the hooks in at the start of the clip, and then the clip ends with Benson getting out of the position and landing some ground and pound. If I had paid, admittedly, more attention to this clip, the submission wasn't threatening enough in order to counteract the ground and pound. I just saw the hooks in and stuff and thought, oh, that must have been scored higher. But I completely understand the reasoning for the judge there, and that's my fault for not concentrating enough. Which, you know, I'm not sat cage side scoring these fights, and no one's money or career or livelihood is on the line. So I was just doing it for fun. So part 2 of this quiz, you get longer clips. They are 2.5 minutes, I believe. First clip was quite a lot tougher to judge. They do get tougher. I scored it correctly for Alima Lee McFarlane, who just seemed to land a bit more, and that is why the judge went with it. Nothing particularly significant landing, but just a bit more accurate and slightly more impactful strikes overall. Second clip, similar to the one with Benson Henderson, but in reverse, in that the blue corner fighter got the nod because of the guillotine choke that was close. His opponent dominated the majority of the clip and landed some good strikes, but then his opponent got a guillotine in and it was close, and so you count that as him being near to ending the fight. So yeah, good lessons to learn from that one. And then the rear naked choke one from earlier on about what counts as a submission, actually impacting the fight instead of, not, I guess. Third clip was another tough one. You had AJ Agazarm, who is nearly finished at the start of the clip and then slowly pulls the fight back. I got this one correct. I went for the blue corner guy, whose name I can't remember, who nearly finishes the fight in the first few seconds of the clip. Because even though after the first 30-45 seconds, Agazarm does recover and kind of turns the fight on his head and threatens with a few submissions, none of them are particularly close to ending the fight, and blue corner still got closer to ending it with the strikes early on in the round. Part 3, you get full rounds to score, and you have to hand in your score within 30 seconds of the end of the clip to try and simulate what scoring an actual fight is like. But obviously the crowd plays a big part in that. The live environment, ask any judge or official, it definitely plays a part. So the first one was an absolute banger of a round, by the way. I don't know how I've not seen this round before, between Lina and Hernandez. I got this one wrong. I ended up going with Hernandez because I felt like he landed the more impactful strikes, but as the judge pointed out, Lyra did come on strong, specifically in the last 2 minutes once his opponent started slowing down, and so the overall impact outweighed the few strikes that I thought, what was his name? Hernandez landed. He landed some eye-catching shots, but so did the other guy. So it was a tough one to score because it was a brawl. But I completely see why that would go the other way. So again, another interesting lesson to learn there about kind of Hernandez landed some good stuff, but there was periods of the fight where his output dropped off massively and his opponent kept landing, and so there you go. That's how you get to that one. The second clip, full round clip, had me quite confused. It was Charlie Ward in Dublin against the tall Brazilian guy. I think he was Brazilian. Carlos. And I gave the round to Carlos because of the big strike that he ended the round with, that clearly hurt Charlie Ward. It didn't drop him, and that was one of the things that said in the judge criteria was the judge's reason for scoring the fight to the round to Charlie Ward is that the shot didn't drop him, it just hurt him. If he had dropped him, it would have been enough. It didn't, and Charlie Ward throughout the majority of the round landed the better strikes with more impact. Again, I should have learnt this lesson from the fight previous, where I went with the guy that landed the few eye-catching shots rather than the guy who consistently landed. To me, I didn't feel like Charlie Ward landed a whole lot that looked impactful. It looked like a lot of misses Those two fights back to back, I got them both wrong because I went for the guy that went for the eye-catching shots or landed them, and the other guy just had far better output throughout the round, and because of that landed more significant blows, which I didn't personally see from Charlie Wall, but again, that could be just a concentration thing and things like that, where I might have missed some of the ones that did land a bit cleaner, like the judge explained once I gave my verdict. Clip 3, I knew that one of these fights was going to be coming at some point, where there's a whole lot of grappling and then only a few strikes that land and have some real impact. This was Carvalho versus Lorenz Larkin, the second round of their fight. Carvalho wins the round because he lands some good strikes at the start and some good strikes at the end, and the majority of the round is just grappling between them that is really ineffective. Lorenz does a whole lot of stalling. The referee, Mike Beltran, separates them at one point because of it, so nothing effective there that needs to be scored, so Carvalho won the striking exchanges. That one was fairly simple, I think. And then finally, I thought, that's going to be the end of it. 3 clips each round, you know. There won't be another full round one here. And then there was. And I knew exactly from the thumbnail before I clicked play of what round this was going to be, because it is one of the most infamous rounds, I think, for when it comes to recent scoring controversy. It was, of course, round 5 of Logan Storley versus Michael Venom Page. I knew how this was going to go. My question was, I remember a lot of people thinking MVP won the fight, which he didn't. Logan Storley got the judges' scorecards win. My question was, I don't know who this judge is. Like, I don't know whether I'm going to be right or wrong on this. I thought MVP. I didn't watch the clip back, I'll be honest, right? I was kind of too committed to the bit by this point. I was like, well, I thought MVP won all that time ago, so I'm going to stick to my guns and see what this judge says about it. And the judge went with Storley, like the... I don't know whether this judge was actually scoring the fight, like the original fight, I don't know. But they did go with Storley like the judges did on that night. The question of this round, the controversy of this whole fight really was MVP didn't land that much. Few strikes per round. But Storley didn't do a whole lot with his grappling. He had a lot of grappling control time, but he didn't really land anything. He didn't progress the position that much. So that's why I went with Page. And it ended up actually breaking down. The referee's verdict was kind of like the most in-depth one that we'd had throughout the whole thing. So I did make an effort to copy and paste it, and so that I can read this back to you. So again, if you want to do this, I mean, it's too late. I've spoiled all of the clips, so it doesn't matter. So I voted MVP, and the judge explained it as this. I will read it word for word. Up until Storley takedown at 3 minutes 30 of round, Page clearly ahead with a few strikes and nothing back from Storley. At the 2 minute mark, Storley controls Page for the last minute and 30 seconds but does 0 damage, and Page is still ahead. His stand-up clearly more effective than Storley's control thus far. Is the grappling for 3 minutes 30 more effective than the 1 minute 30 of the striking portion? As I said. Since both are scored equally when effective and none of the strikes from Page were damaging, this round is scored 10-9 to Storley, which, personally, I didn't agree with. The interesting thing here that I think that the judge pointed out is that both are scored equally when effective, and I do agree with that. Of course, I mean, of course I agree with it. It's literally the rules, right? That makes a ton of sense. I can understand why you would argue that means that Storley could win. For me personally, the conversation instead, it shouldn't be about them being scored equally. It should be what counts as effective grappling. Because yes, Storley takes him down, and yes, Michael Venom Page doesn't get back up, but he doesn't advance position. He doesn't land strikes. And so is that enough to counteract Michael Venom Page actually hitting him and Storley not offering anything back? Obviously, the conversation changes if Storley lands some strikes against MVP when they're standing, because then you can say he had some striking output and dominated the grappling. But to me, MVP was more effective at what he was doing than what Storley was doing, if that makes sense. I know that, MVP didn't land, he didn't drop him or anything like that, but he did land some good strikes that looked like they had some decent impact. It's an interesting one. If you do end up doing this quiz, which, again, I insist that you do, it's definitely worth your time. just interesting at the very least to see how your thoughts compare to a judge's. Let me know about this round. Now that once you've watched it back, I should probably go watch it back as well, because I saw that and was like, nope, sticking with MVP. So I should have watched it back as well. I did watch the first like 2 minutes to see whether I was justified in saying that MVP landed some decent strikes, which I think he did. But yeah, let me know about MVP versus Storley. We're making this a conversation point again, and let me know how you got on with this MMA fighting quiz. Fantastic work by all the guys at MMA Fighting to put this together, because I think it's well worth your time and well worth checking out. Thanks for checking out this video as well, and I will catch you on the next one.